Welcome back to VOP this morning. The Nigerian Labour Congress is today embarking on its third strike in as many months. Its two-day national warning strike marshaled by the NLC, in part due to the hardship that have attended the removal of fuel subsidy in June. Public schools, hospitals, seaports, and airports, among other public institutions, have expressed readiness to mobilize workers to down tools across the critical sectors. This is just as about 52 NLC affiliates across the country have stepped up mobilization for total shutdown, directing their members to commence withdrawal of services over federal government's failures to establish essential structures to address suffering and hardship in the country. Joining us virtually to discuss this is Chukwuma Okoro, who is a social commentator, and Nick Agule, a social commentator as well. Welcome, Chukwuma and Nick.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. So,
Thank you very much. Good morning.
yes, good morning. So, Chukwuma, answer me this: how does the new tax regime, impact the concerns raised by the NLC?
We have talked about the new tax regime earlier, because what this government has done since assumption of office is to widen the tax net to bring in more people, more taxable people into the structure, to generate money, to run government. To run which government? To run a bloated government, to run a government that cannot keep its lifestyle in check. That is just the essence. And at the end of the day, who is at the short end of the stick? The masses, the poor Nigerians who can barely feed, who can barely buy fuel, who can barely run their businesses. And you are taxing businesses that are not improving, businesses that are not vibrant, businesses that are not doing well. You are taxing businesses when major businesses, multinationals, are trying to close shop and leave Nigeria, when you should be giving tax leave to people, build an economic base that will become productive over time, so that you'll be able to now go back and say, okay, now that you are doing business that is paying very well, it's time for you to pay tax. Tax is like a tertiary. If you like calibrate it, the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary, make the environment conducive for business to thrive, to succeed, before you now start levying taxes. But it's unfortunate that the NLC has become to me, a toothless bulldog that can only bark and cannot bite. This is the third time in about 95 days that the NLC is calling for a strike. The first time they said it was a protest. When pressure came from the government side, they changed it to a strike. And at the end of the day, nothing came out of it. So what guarantee do we have that this other strike is going to become meaningful?
All right, let me come to Nick now. Nick, good morning once again. I hope you're okay.
Yes, good morning. I'm okay.
All
How
right
are
then.
you?
Very, very well, thank you. Now let's look at this strike. As Chukwuma rightly stated, it's the third time in about 3 months. Now, do you think Nigerians will take NLC seriously, seeing the antecedents since this administration came into power?
I thank you very much for that question. Um, I think when it comes to strikes, to press for demands, I have always supported the cause of labor in Nigeria because current administration, since they are coming into office back in May, have implemented policies that each of them affects adversely the welfare of not just workers in Nigeria, but everybody that is living in Nigeria. And we are not seeing commensurate policies being implemented to bring succor to Nigerians in terms of these policies. So if you think about the removal of petrol subsidy, it impacts on everyone in Nigeria, big or small, rich or poor. If you think of the unification of the forex rate, it impacts on everybody in Nigeria, given our high import dependent economy. So these things have been done without the government, making any effort, as I can see right now, of working on the fundamental solutions that are going to cure these pains that Nigerians are undergoing. So Labour is in the right to embark on these industrial actions. Now, let us not forget that Labour is coming under immense pressure from the government. You have government agencies like even the DSS coming up with their usual amorphous statements about people who are planning some sort of insurrection in the country and all of that. These are all targeted at Labour, threatening them, bringing all sorts of gangsterism in the process. So I personally salute the Labour leaders that in spite of these threats, in spite of these underhand dealings, in spite of a government that is aloof in the sense that as this strike is being called, we are being told that our president is leaving or has left Nigeria and is traveling abroad. That is to show you that the president doesn't really care about the strike. It doesn't matter to him that the country is going to be shut down with a strike.
Well, I think the president has to go and woo investors in. Isn't that what he's going to the G20 summit to do, to woo investors in? Isn't that why he has a Minister of Labor, Simon Lalong, to sit in place for him?
How many times do we hear people from Dubai traveling abroad to go and woo investors? What they do there is that they have created the enabling environment there in Dubai, and people are willingly, on their own volition, carrying their money and going to Dubai. There is no amount of foreign trips that you are going to make to go and woo investors when you have not set up the structures that will attract those investors. Look, we live in a globalized world now. Investors all over the world know what's happening in Nigeria. You don't need to go and tell them anything about Nigeria. They are fully aware of what's happening in Nigeria. They know that the judiciary in Nigeria is rubbish. That the judiciary passed judgments that even the judiciary themselves cannot explain. They are fully aware of insecurity in Nigeria, where even our waterways, our own navy cannot police that. So you have to go and bring in an individual, a private entity to hand over the territorial waters of Nigeria. They are fully aware of the fact that we don't have any electricity. Which business comes to Nigeria when you are generating 3,000 megawatts and giving it to a population of 200 million? They are fully aware of the issues we have in terms of regulatory compliance, and government agencies are busy looking for bribes up and down from investors before any business can be done. People are fully aware of these things. So if you make 1 million trips abroad, you are not going to bring them in. When will they come in and their workers are kidnapped and the government is there doing nothing about it? Instead, the companies are left to go and pay ransom to rescue their workers. Then the National Assembly is making a law to come against those whose people have been kidnapped and government can't do anything about it and are trying in their own private ways to go and release their people. The National Assembly, instead of making laws to force the hands of the security to do their work, is making a law to jail families and companies whose people have been kidnapped and they are making efforts to go and rescue them. Who is coming to that kind of country? So let's be honest with this. It doesn't make sense that you are not doing what you are supposed to do, and every time you are carrying briefcase, spending extra code, and going abroad. Do you know how much dollar that these people are going to demand now that the president is going abroad? Is that not part of the reason why the exchange rate crisis cannot be corrected? So I'm not one to be convinced with these jamborees called trips abroad for investment.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Nick. Chukuma, this question goes to you. Please, can you just, because in time past, we know that strike actions are more like last resorts. So after all said and done, and the government still doesn't deliver, the NLC goes on strike. But now we're having a little too many of this sort of actions, and what do you think about it? And secondly, do you think that what are the consequences, so to speak, of the government or the federal government not delivering on its promises to the NLC eventually? What would be the consequence?
See, the issue here is that nobody is trying to diminish the importance of labor union in an economy as large as Nigeria. The point is, what has labor achieved in all of this that they have done in the past 8 years, in the past 12 years? And Nick said something about the labor being under pressure from government. But I think that this labor that is in a democratic dispensation has even been less vibrant than the labor we had during the military regime, when the army used the SSS, the DMI, and all sorts of apparatus, security apparatus, to clamp down on labor. Yet they were able to mobilize forcefully to articulate demands for Nigerian workers. They have. What have we done in this time? It's just for them to face 7 measures. They gather, and the other time I saw them dancing on Malay so in Abuja in the name of calling in the name of a strike. Is that what to do? We should have a more vibrant labor now, because democracy is supposed to strengthen our institutions. Unfortunately, our institutions are being weakened by democracy itself. We have a labor that cannot bite. We have a civil society. The only civil society that is active now is SERAP, and the only thing they do is go to court. When was the last time labor union allowed a government to remove the fuel subsidy? What happened during Jonathan? Was it not labor in coalition with civil society that brought the government down on its knees? And the same fuel subsidy was removed. You see, there's an elephant in the room and people don't like to talk about it. But the reality is that the coming strike, the question you asked, is too many now, because they are not effective, they are not efficient. In fact, the sectional unions like the ASU, like the Johnson Judiciary Workers Union, have been more effective in driving home their demands than the collective called the Nigerian Labour Congress. So the impact is that Nigerians will take it as a time to rest, stay in their houses. The labor unions will go and fly their flags and go back home. And at the end of the day, they will go back to the government and talk. That is not what we want. Look, let me tell you, the youth population, the unorganized youth, so to say, because when I say the organized youth, I mean away from the headship of the National Council of Nigerian Youths, or whatever their name is. If you see the vigor, if you see the solidarity, the intense solidarity, the unshakable resolve they had during the NSAS and during the voter registration exercise, you will discover that the youth has become more stable as a power structure than the labor itself. And if the youth organize themselves, they can do anything they want. They can get anything they want from government. This is more like a jamboree. What I expected labor to do at the first instance was to shut down the country. The moment the president said, I've removed fuel subsidy, shut down the country, bring the government down on its knees, for the government to come and negotiate. But now, the government has softened the ground. They have given 5 billion naira to each state, 5 billion naira, and gave grains and rice. I don't know how Nigerians are supposed to convert grain and rice into fear, because the issue at core is fuel subsidy removal. Subsidy was removed, and you are giving us rice. So at the end of the day, when the rice finishes, when the grain finishes, we do what? We come back to you again and get another palliative for rice. And they gave 5 billion naira component. They have the financial, the monetary, and the material component. Now, the monetary component given as grant to states to do what? So that they will give it to people. What is BOI doing? What is NISA doing? I mean, these things are not properly articulated. At the end of the day, this thing will just come and fizzle out, and Nigerians will continue suffering. The only hope we have now is the youth population. If the youth are able to mobilize themselves and say, look, this is what we want, and this is how we want to go about it, I'm sure they can achieve more. And what the NLC needs to do is even to co-opt the youth into whatever agenda they have, because their own forces are no longer potent. Their own forces are no longer potent.
All right,
It's unfortunate.
I was gonna ask you a question, but now that you mentioned the youth, I'll probably push that one to later. Now that you mentioned the youth, how then can the youth be involved when the DSS came out yesterday to say that they are privy to certain information that certain individuals are trying to mobilize the youth to cause protest that will, worsen things in the nation, and they are warning parents and guardians to advise their wards to stay away from such protests. Don't you think that's instilling fear in the people? And probably, no parent would want to put their child out there to go and protest or anything, or join labor in its march. I don't think any parent would want to do that.
Okay, Moses, the release by the SSS is laughable. It's laughable. At the end of the day, it's political, and they are trying to serve the interest of their masters. Which parent asked their children to go out to Lekki during the EndSARS? Which parent asks the child to go and protest when school fees are increased? Parents don't do that. The youth mobilize themselves. And come to think of it, this is an SSS whose only duty is to know when there is a protest against the government. Maybe that is their own definition of counter-terrorism, counter-insurgency, or to detect crime, neutralize threats to Nigerian homeland. That is not their core duty. Giving out warnings is not their core duty. Their core duty, if they know those people, why don't they go and arrest those people? Why are they telling us? They are trying to instill fears on Nigerian youth, like you said, but it won't work. And we are in very volatile times. Let us say it as it is. We are in very volatile times. The DSS knows that at the snap of a finger, this country can go into conflagration. So that is what they are doing, putting measures in place to dissuade people from coming out to do whatever they want to do. Because the times are hard. This thing is biting. Okay. It's biting very hard. And the youths are very restive now. The youths are very restive. I don't believe in what the DSS says. If the DSS is serious, the DSS should issue advisory about when terrorists, bandits, headsmen, Boko Haram are supposed to strike, not when there's a political unrest that is in view against the government. They are not serious, and Nigerians don't take them serious. The youths will come out. If they want to do anything, they will do it. NLC is on strike too. And I just pray that this strike, as feeble as it is, will send a signal to the government, or as feeble as it might be, will send a signal to the government that, look, things are no longer the way they used to be. We need to sit up.
We need to sit up.
Nothing is working. Look at what Nick said. Do you need to tell it? You don't need to go to anywhere to tell people to come and invest here. You don't need to, because the world is a global stage. Everybody knows what's going on. You know where it's free. You know where it's not free. You know where to go and where not to go.
Okay.
In any case, what are those people going? What is Tony Elumelu? What is Ben Allen Onyema? What are they going to do in India? Now they don't know. Did they go to India to get the ideas they're implementing here to run their businesses? That thing is just junketing. They're just going to spend taxpayers' money.
All right.
At the end of the day, nothing will come out of it.
All right then. Thank you very much. Let me quickly go over to Nick now. Let me just get Nick's view on this. Now, Nick, let's look at how strong the statement NLC is trying to make with this strike will be, seeing that TUC, its affiliate, its brother or its sister association, is saying that they really would not be part of it. You know, according to TUC, the TUC's henchman, that's Festus Osifo, he has said that, look, that he knows it's not just on government alone, because government has given states certain amount of money to cushion the effects of the subsidy removal, and TUC will now go back and set up a committee that will look at how states use the monies given to them. How do you think this will affect the strength of NLC's 2-day strike?
Thank you very much. What is coming from TUC is part of the challenges that organized labor is facing. So I pretty much understand what my co-panelist Chukuma is saying, but these are also part of the reasons, you know, that you can find that labor is finding it difficult to get a rhythm on this protest or strikes, because you see, the position that has been taken by the TUC, for me, if you are going to a meeting, a crisis meeting, and you have already drawn your gun on the other party that you are going to negotiate with, then it is also in order for that party to also draw their gun. Since you want negotiations to happen under the barrier of guns, let it be so. What am I saying here? What I'm saying here is that the federal government has already implemented their own policies, meaning they have already drawn their guns. They have already thrown workers under the bus by increasing fuel cost, by unification of the forest rate. Now they're talking about taxation. Taxation will involve the manufacturer transferring the extra cost of tax into the prices of goods so that they can recover their money. So all these policies are inimical to the welfare of workers, and government has already implemented these things. So if that is the case, then let labor also go on strike so that both parties are negotiating under the barrier of the gun. There is no way you can have government implement the policies and workers are already suffering, and you now say, oh, we are not going to draw our own gun because government has sent an amorphous 5 billion naira each to each state, a money that we very well know that the states are not going to utilize properly, because these are the same states that have never utilized the federal allocations that have been sent to them over the ages properly. If the states were utilizing the federal allocation, which this last time was almost 1 trillion naira that was shared to all the tiers of government, Nigeria would have been a much better place than it is today. So for me, the position of a TUC is timid, it doesn't make sense, but well, that is the position they have taken, and the Nigerian Labour can still go ahead and embark on their own strike. All the unions don't have to go on strike at the same time. As I speak to you now, I am in the United Kingdom, and the government here in the United Kingdom has been facing series of strikes as well. And it's never all the workers going on strike at the same time. It is always doctors on strike, nurses on strike the other day, train drivers on strike the other day. So the individual organized labor unions can go on their strike. And for me, labor should go ahead and engage in this strike, which, by the way, is a warning strike of 2 days. It's not as if they are crippling down the country. And this warning strike is what even the unions in the United Kingdom have been undergoing to push government and force their hands to come to the table with more concrete offers than what is currently on the table.
All right, Nick. Thank you very much for that. But I would like to ask this. I mean, there is no gainsaying that Nigerians are suffering, currently suffering. What would the effect of this strike be on the economy generally and the daily lives of people, especially those who have daily jobs? You know, people are already suffering, and now this 2 days warning strike, which NLC has, by the way, said, you know, if they don't get some, you know, some results within the 2 days, they would extend it to 14 days and then 21 days and what have you, you know, and then they will be shutting down schools, hospitals, airports, seaports, you know, all of these things. Wouldn't it, you know, further crumble the already, the already terrible issues happening already in the economy right now in Nigeria? What do you think about that?
There's no doubt that this strike is going to add to the pains of Nigerians. There's simply no doubt about that. But forget the fact that sometimes we have to endure the pains of injection. You take injection to heal your body. Sometimes doctors even have to amputate a limb to save a body. So sacrifices have to be made for the good of Nigeria and the future of this country. And for me, in as much as this strike is going to cause disruption, is going to cause pains to the generality of Nigerians, it is a worthwhile cause, because of what use do we not want to undergo these pains now for, let's say, 2 days and suffer perpetually without government doing anything? Like the point I made, there is absolutely no way that a president who is committed to a country's people in terms of providing welfare and security to them will be out on a jamboree when the country is about to be shut down with a strike. And imagine, even the presidential tribunal says they are going to deliver judgment tomorrow. You see, he doesn't stop the president. He's carrying on as if nothing is happening. So, yes, it's going to cause pains, but yes, it's for a good cause. And let us endure these pains so that we can solve the larger problem of the poor policies that this government has been implementing since they came into office without taking commensurate action to bring relief to Nigerians.
Very well. Thank you very much. Chukuma, okay, why has, in your opinion, of course, why do you think government has failed to establish essential structures, you know, to address the suffering and hardship in the country, you know? What exactly is their agenda currently? What do you think it is? That's for you, Nick.
Hello?
Chukuma, I beg your pardon. That's
I'm
for
with
you,
you. I didn't
Chukuma,
get
yes.
that.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I didn't quite get that.
Okay, I said, why do you think government has failed to establish essential structures, you know, to address the sufferings and hardship in the country? I mean, till now, because I think, you know, some people think the NLC is not giving the government enough time to do what they need to do before embarking on, you know, different strikes. What do you think about that? Do you think the government has enough time, or doesn't it have enough time to have, you know, by now? I mean, this is almost how many months into the administration, and, you know, how is it that some of these things are still, you know, issues for the government to address in due time?
The government has had more than enough time. This government was elected on the 25th of February, right?
Yes.
2023, 25th of February this year. They had till May 29th to put the acts together. Even before, this government had 8 good years to plan. 8 good years to plan. The current president was the national leader of the party in government. So they had 8 good years before his own swearing in. And what time do they need again? They don't need time. Nigerians have crossed the threshold of suffering that they don't even know the difference between joy and happiness, the difference between hardship and suffering. The only thing is that Nigerians know is hardship. So now they don't need it. They had all the time. If you ask me, like I said, as feeble as the strike action might seem, is a little too late. It should have come far, far earlier than now. At the moment the president, in the podium where he was sworn in, at the snap of a finger, removed fuel subsidy, I had expected that the NLC will immediately know the consequences that was going to bring on the Nigerian people and immediately call for a strike or even a protest to stop that. Not to stop the first subsidy removal, but to get upon the president to tell Nigerians this first subsidy you want to remove, what plans have you made to assuage the sufferings that it will bring on the people? NLC had done that. It would have been more appropriate than this thing that they are doing now. The president has appointed his ministers. The president has appointed his army chiefs. The president has appointed pressure to be on the NLC. You see senators asking NLC, okay, why don't you give the government time to let's see what they can do? You know, what time do they need? They had all the time and they didn't do anything. The government made a false start. And if you make a false start, hardly do you ever make a better ending. It's like I said, I'm not convinced that this strike is going to produce any result. The president doesn't give a damn. He has left the shores of this country to attend the G whatever meeting that I don't understand with these people. You know, so what are they going to bring back? The economy is already down. What the president and his people need to do is to build from the basics, bottom up, layered structure. What is it? Is it agriculture that we need to emphasize? Is it industrialization that we need to? Is it power that we need to emphasize? You need to put your house in order before you start inviting visitors. The people in your house are living, and you don't ask the questions why they are living. You are going to bring more people to come so that they will come and see the real circles of the show, toying with lives of Nigerians. No, we can't continue like this. We can't. Labour can do all they can. Joe Ajero, as an aside, Joe Ajero was my classmate in college, and I know that he's under enormous pressure. Like I said, the NLC, like most institutions, have lost their vibrancy. The vibrancy they even had.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Instead of the democratic politics, it's quite unfortunate.
Quite unfortunate indeed. And it's also quite unfortunate that we seem to be having a glitch with your network quality there, as it affected your words at the
I can
latter
see you
part.
clearly.
Okay. No,
I can see.
Oh, great. But we had a problem with your words at the latter part. Now, let me quickly go over to Nick now. I'll come back to you, Chukuma, on this one, because I would like your opinion on it as well. Now, there's this saying that you will know what an administration is up to, or what they are about, if you look at their first 100 days in office. Now, this current administration is 1 day shy of 100 days if you count from May 29 to today, the 5th of September. It's 99 days actually. What would you say? How would you judge this administration in terms of what we are looking at today? What we're looking at, which is labor, its relationship with labor, its desire to see that Nigerians get better lives, probably the workers of Nigeria are better paid. How would you describe this government's stance, judging by its 99 days or maybe 100 days?
Thank you very much for that question.
Okay.
The question is, how will I rate this government with respect to their relationship with labor within these 100 days?
Yes.
I will rate them very poorly, very, very poorly, because when the government came into power, they started to execute some of the policies that we have been speaking about here. The fuel subsidy removal, the foreign exchange unification, and all of that. to me, I applauded those policies because these are policies that some elements were using to loot our commonwealth blindly in this country. But as time went on, it now appeared that the government did not have anything, any game plan to deal with the fallout of the policies that they are implementing. And let's not forget, my colleague Chukuma has been saying this. Let's not forget the fact that this government has treated labor with scorn. Let's remember that immediately labor started a shift towards embarking on industrial action to press for relief to Nigeria. This government took them to court. In fact, the government did not even take labor to court. The government went surreptitiously went and obtained a court injunction against labor. You understand? And labor was put in a hard place to say, oh, if we proceed on this strike when an injunction is restraining us and all of that. So we have a government that is using underhand tactics, a government that is throwing everything at labor, including the DSS, who my co-panelists correctly said don't even know their left from their right, coming up against labor and all of that. So this government conduct towards labor has been shoddy, has been poor. It has not even made sense, and that has culminated with the president himself calling the bluff of labor, and with his country facing a strike action, has decided to depart the shores of this country to a jamboree. So my rating of this government in terms of labor relations is almost zero.
Do you expect anything different going forward? Do you expect it to get...
To be honest, if you ask me if I expect anything different going forward, as it stands, I don't think that this government has anything in its arsenal to bring to the table. This government doesn't seem to even know what they need to do to bring succor to Nigerians. So I don't think they have anything different, except labor forces their hands. And the only way labor can force their hands is to continue on these strikes. I'm very surprised about this government because they came in with what looked like a bright start, and I align totally with the view of my co-panelist Chukuma, because this government actually came into power in February when they were giving the certificate of return. Immediately you are giving certificate of, your government has already started. So if you start from February to August now, September now, it is 6 months, gone past 6 months. And you can see that the president could not even constitute his cabinet. He had to be forced by the law that says 60 days after you come into office, we must constitute. And then he even disobeyed the law by not constituting the cabinet fully. So you can see that these people are not prepared. They actually, surprisingly, appearing not to have been prepared for taking office. So
all right,
that's my opinion of them.
Chukwuma, now please tell me you have something different. Tell me you have words that will give the common man hope. If we look at this, what the government has done in the past few days and what it has for Nigerians going forward, please give me some hope.
I'm sorry. I'm going to disappoint you because I don't have any word for hope for the Nigerian people. Tomorrow is 100 days of this administration. No policy direction, if you ask me. In concrete terms, they rolled out an eight-point agenda, and I didn't see the basics there. I didn't see power. I didn't see industrialization. What I saw was everything that we have been saying for the past how many years. When this government removed fuel subsidy and started giving excuses, that is because some few powerful individuals have cornered the subsidy into their personal pockets. The government did not know that they made one very important statement to Nigerians. And that statement is what? We cannot fight corruption. Besides that, not just this government, previous governments that have premised the removal of fuel subsidy on the fact that, see, a very few people have cornered this subsidy into their pockets. Moses, we have 200 plus million Nigerians, and I'm not sure we have up to 200 people who have licenses to import fuel. The fuel that we were not supposed to import in the first place, somehow we got to the position of importing our own products refined from outside. Now, 200 people have the license. They're involved in over-invoicing. They're involved in round-tripping. Some of them don't even do anything. They invoice. Less than 200 people. And a government with all the apparatus of office. You have the military, you have the DSS that is parading itself as the state police now. You have everything, and they cannot, no government has been able to bring these few people into book, into justice, so that Nigerians can continue to enjoy this subsidy. To me, that's a statement of we cannot fight corruption. Or maybe we know the people and we are shielding our friends. Or we might even be part of the people. So going forward, unless there's a miracle, that is the only way there is hope in Nigeria. But based on what we have seen, it will still be the same suffering and smiling for the next. In the next, we've done 100 days, just at the whiff of a finger. We have done 100 days. The next thing is 200 days. 1 year is gone. People start positioning themselves for 2027. We all go back to politics. So if you ask me, the renewed hope is actually renewed hopelessness. That is what I see it to be.
All right.
I'm sorry.
You've said it just the way you feel it, and I guess Nigerians will have to resort to prayers. Oh well, that's what it seems like. Anyway, let's zero in.
So we have
now.
always prayed. We have prayed since 1960.
We've been praying since 1960.
We have prayed since 1960. Singapore started praying in 65. God answered their prayers.
Okay.
China prayed in the last 30 years, and they moved 400 million people out of poverty.
We need to pray harder.
India prayed 30 years ago, and it became the largest democracy in the world and one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So let's to pray. But remember that faith without good work is useless. We have our work cut out for us as a people. To pressure our government to do the right things for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, let's quickly zero in on what the Department of State Services, DSS, said yesterday when they raised the alarm that the service had uncovered plans by some disgruntled politicians to stage a nationwide violent protest, keyword on violent protest, in order to discredit the federal government and security agencies over sundry socio-economic matters in the country. Now, this statement was contained. This was contained in a statement made available to newsmen in Abuja yesterday, and it was made by the spokesperson of the DSS, Dr. Peter Afunaya. Now, I know we played around this earlier, but we are zeroing in on it now. Do you think, Nick, do you think the DSS, knows exactly what it's up to, what it should be doing? Oh well, I hear that we have to go for a break, so I would like you to hold your thoughts. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation.